that happened to my daughter is what happened to Whitney. There's only one person that was around both occasions.
You won't say his name. Nick Gordon is who you're referring to.
I won't say his name.
At 3:55 p.m. this afternoon, Whitney Houston was pronounced at the Beverly Hilton Hotel.
We all remember the headline. Bobby Brown, hunched over, voice hoarse, admitting the one thing nobody in the Houston camp ever dared to say on camera: I blame myself for a lot of things. That single confession dropped like a meteorite in the middle of the music world. Suddenly, decades of whispers and wild theories weren't just the territory of fevered internet forums. They were on the record. We have seen remorse before, sure, but there's a difference between the PR-approved apologies and the sound of a man practically inviting a mob of public outrage onto his own doorstep. We're talking about the main suspect in the court of public opinion, holding up his hands and saying, "Go ahead, take your best shot." The world, naturally, obliged.
People said to me, the one thing that they heard over and over again, that you were the one that led Whitney to heavy use.
Well,
that you were the one.
It wasn't me. It started her. I take my part, and I take it hard for me even being a part of it.
Why now? Why open this old wound? People everywhere are connecting the dots, and if Bobby's words were intended as some kind of cleansing ritual, they may have backfired spectacularly. We all know he's not the only one with something to lose if the story gets rewritten. In the hours after Bobby's confession went viral, we saw an industry-wide panic ripple out. Not just among fans, but straight into the luxury boardrooms of music's so-called untouchables. Suddenly, Diddy and Clive Davis, two men whose names are etched deep in the foundation of modern pop, started doing the kind of nervous behind-the-scenes dance usually reserved for people who hear their name and witness protection in the same sentence. Diddy's legal headaches are no secret lately, but it's Clive Davis's anxiety that is sending the real shivers up Hollywood's collective spine.
We're learning more tonight about the dark and final days of legendary superstar Whitney Houston. Her ex-husband, Bobby Brown, revealing new and intimate details of the couple's turbulent marriage, including their abuse.
It's the cold details of Whitney Houston's final hours that still freeze the blood. Details Bobby can't escape, no matter how many tell-alls or reality specials he signs up for. Whitney was found submerged, lifeless, in that suite at the Beverly Hilton. The official story still rings out: accidental drowning complicated by a history of unhealthy choices and a lifestyle spinning out of control. Yet there's an image that haunts anyone who has followed this case: a vision of music's elite clinking glasses and posing for photos just floors away from a coroner's team working in eerie silence. Yes, Clive Davis's infamous pre-Grammy party rolled on, the invitations unsentimental, the music playing on while Whitney's body remained upstairs for nearly 9 hours. Whitney would have wanted the music to go on, Davis declared from the stage, face creased with manufactured grief. Did he really believe that, or was he simply determined to protect the show at any cost?
That I have a very special connection with artists, with music. I certainly know I had it with him.
We're left to wonder what kind of world allows a mentor, someone who built his reputation on discovering and protecting legends, to keep the celebration flowing when the biggest star in his galaxy has just been lost a few floors above. If that's loyalty, we'd hate to see betrayal. Did anyone stop and question the optics? The optics are still damning. Worse, the deeper you look, because the industry insiders aren't just talking about awkward parties and bad taste. Rumors swirl around a so-called insurance plan Clive Davis allegedly kept on Whitney, a shadowy business arrangement whispered about in the corridors of power, hinting that Davis maintained leverage over her career, her choices, her very movements. Former label execs, ex-road managers, even Houston's own family have suggested that Clive's control over Whitney extended far beyond contracts and royalties. They allege it was a suffocating grip, the sort of toxic dependency that might trap even the most gifted performer in a cycle of fear and self-destruction. Was Whitney really free to walk away, or was every step a negotiation with invisible strings pulling tighter?
She just said she was in denial on that occasion. And she said it's not as serious as you make out.
The official reports, of course, lay out the familiar litany: a tangle of white crystal-like substance, faded post-it notes of a more innocent past, prescription bottles shuffled around the suite by hands that never bothered to leave a name for the police report. There's a tragic symmetry in the end, not just in the way Whitney's life ended, but in the way the story got cleaned up, sanitized for public consumption. That the people close to her, including Bobby Brown, never fully accepted the narrative the coroner signed off on. In one of his more lucid moments, Bobby once insisted she was really working hard on herself to try to be a sober person. He blamed heartbreak, not chemicals, for her undoing. And now, with this latest confession, we have to ask, is Bobby shielding someone else, or is he finally tired of holding everyone's secrets?
Never apparent to me. Any meeting I had with her, any interchange I had with her, she was on top of.
No conspiracy would be complete without Diddy lurking somewhere in the shadows. Once the brash young king of bad boy, Diddy was, according to multiple industry sources, brought into the fold by Clive Davis himself. The same Clive who, by his own account, decided hip-hop belonged in the top 40 after one fateful meeting with a 23-year-old Sean Combs. It was a move that changed the face of pop, and it's a partnership that never stopped raising eyebrows. These days, Diddy's legal situation reads like a checklist of scandals. But he has always managed to keep a seat at Clive's table, no matter who else got blacklisted. There are people in the business, people who have survived things they won't say out loud, who insist that this is no accident. Some claim Diddy and Clive operate under a kind of mutual insurance, holding secrets over each other that guarantee eternal invitations, no matter how many lawsuits, no matter how ugly the headlines.
Located her body inside this hotel. So far, police and the coroner are refusing to offer details about what may have caused her tragic.
Whitney's body was removed just before 1 a.m., long after the party guests had stumbled home. The timeline alone raises eyebrows. Found unresponsive at 3:43 p.m., declared gone at 3:55, police on the scene in under 2 minutes. Already on site, already expecting trouble, some would say. Yet, through it all, the music didn't stop, the party didn't pause, and the only visible sign of loss was a scripted tribute from the very man whose protection was supposed to mean something. Was it business as usual, or was it a carefully orchestrated distraction? A media circus designed to keep attention away from the real questions about how a superstar could fall so far, so quickly, under the watch of men who claimed to love her.
And her and Clive had a fight 2 days before. And from what I was told, Bobby Christina was present for some of that fight.
Some of the more outlandish allegations are making their way out of the underground as well. Jaguar Wright, a singer known for her no-filter industry exposés, has now publicly claimed that Clive Davis sacrificed Whitney Houston and her daughter Bobby Christina for the sake of controlling their legacies, and that the shadowy vault of secrets Davis supposedly keeps might hold more than just unreleased demos. These claims remain unproven, dismissed as wild by some, but the fact that such theories can even breathe in the oxygen of today's media climate says everything about the public's willingness to believe the worst about its idols.
I believe that there are several people that wanted Bobby Christina, but I think the purpose of her was to gain full access to Whitney Houston's estate.
We can't ignore the eerie echo between Whitney's passing and her daughter Bobby Christina's own fate, discovered unconscious in a tub just 3 years later, ending her life after months in a coma. Even the method seemed like a message. Nick Gordon, the man once seen as Bobby Christina's protector, ended up liable for her demise, but not before suggesting that Whitney herself had saved her daughter from a similar scene the night before her own demise. If there's a script for this family tragedy, it reads like a series of mirrored disasters, always circling the same handful of names: Bobby, Clive, Diddy, each playing a part, each watching the story unfold from just off stage.
I believe that somebody my niece, just like they her mother.
Of course, the official line is that no foul play was involved in Whitney's demise. The coroner closed the file, the media moved on, at least until Bobby's confession detonated the case all over again. Industry insiders have always whispered about those missing pieces: the ID pulled from her wallet before police arrived, the prescription bottles rearranged, the suite sanitized just enough to make things look plausible but never quite clean. We know from the coroner's report that the levels of certain substances in her system were described as not necessarily lethal, but complicated by years of dependency and, crucially, heartbreak. It's the heartbreak that Bobby keeps coming back to. The same heartbreak he claims broke his daughter years later. And in the middle of all this is the one question nobody seems ready to answer. Why is Bobby Brown talking now? For years, he ducked blame, lashed out at reporters, even spun his own family drama for reality ratings. But something has shifted. Is this confession a last gasp at redemption, or a calculated move in a much larger game? A warning shot to those who stayed silent, while Whitney Houston, the woman they all claim to adore, was left to drown in plain sight. As we sift through the aftermath, one thing is clear. Bobby Brown is no longer content to be the fall guy. And he's not the only one who stayed silent. So why is he speaking out now? And what does he know about the people who were really pulling the strings?
When you find love, you find it. I mean, it finds you, I should say. Between me and her, it was so instant. We were so much like each other that it made sense.
The night Whitney Houston's star vanished from the sky, we all noticed the missing face in the crowd. Bobby Brown? Nowhere to be found at Clive Davis's notorious pre-Grammy Gala. For years, the official story went down smooth. Bobby was grieving privately, conveniently out of the spotlight. But behind the velvet rope, whispers grew loud. Insiders claim Bobby wasn't just left off the guest list by accident, he was warned off, told in no uncertain terms that his presence would not be welcome. Not because of a messy breakup or a family feud, because the last thing certain power players needed was Bobby, unpredictable, emotional, maybe under the influence, taking the mic with a truth bomb. We've seen this pattern before. When an inconvenient witness is kept off stage, it's not a coincidence, it's a cover. If Bobby had shown up and started talking, the narrative that night might have taken a turn that no one in Clive's camp could spin back under control. Was this classic damage control? Or a preemptive strike against an untold story? People close to the Brown camp now say Bobby's recent confession, the guilt, the regret, the self-blame, may not just be personal anguish bubbling over. Maybe it's calculated, maybe even a little bit strategic. After years of being blamed for everything wrong in Whitney's world, he's decided to put the focus back on the people who really ran the show. Maybe, after being told to keep quiet, he's finally decided to tell us exactly what he wasn't supposed to. What secrets did Bobby threaten to reveal that night? And why were the industry's biggest names so afraid he might grab a microphone and let them slip? In the high-stakes world of superstar image management, even a whiff of uncontrolled truth can trigger full-scale panic.
I always made it a point to not let her see me or my wife in that type of situation. I mean, it's hard when you're doing it every day.
But
the spotlight shifts now to those missing minutes, a nearly perfect 30-minute gap between Whitney's last phone call with her mother and the moment she was found unresponsive in that hotel suite. At 3:15 p.m., Cissy Houston heard her daughter's voice, and all reports say Whitney sounded fine. No drama, no sign of distress. Yet by 3:43 p.m., the hotel suite was chaos, the assistant screaming for help, security flooding the hallway, and the LAPD officers, who were already conveniently on site for Clive's bash, racing to the scene. The coroner's report, all 42 pages of it, lays out a crime scene full of contradictions. There's the matter of Whitney's missing driver's license, removed from her wallet before the authorities arrived. Prescription bottles, supposedly moved from a brown bag onto a table, again, before law enforcement got there. It's all in black and white, buried in official documents, but nobody has ever managed to explain who had the access and motive to tidy up the scene, let alone why they would risk tampering with evidence before the police ever crossed the threshold.
He needed her back.
Oh, yeah.
He needed her back, but he needed her back and under his control.
For conspiracy theorists, it's red meat, but even the skeptics have to ask, how do vital personal effects end up in different places unless someone was in the room with a vested interest in making things look a certain way? This isn't just tabloid fodder, it's the kind of detail that makes legitimate investigators nervous. The coroner ruled out foul play, but every time another personal item gets shuffled, every time a new friend emerges with a different version of the timeline, we're reminded that some of the most important details about Whitney's final moments may still be locked away, hidden in plain sight by those who were in the best position to alter the story. What did Bobby Brown really mean when he said, "I blame myself for a lot of things"? Are we meant to believe he was only talking about old fights and missed opportunities? Or is this his coded way of pointing us toward the truth he can't say out loud? In a town where silence is currency and secrets are power, the behavior of everyone around Whitney in her last days seems a little too choreographed, a little too eager to push Bobby to the margins. Look back at the insurance plan rumors surrounding Clive Davis, allegations that he set up financial structures ensuring he would always benefit from Whitney's career, whether she was at her peak or spiraling out of control. Critics claim this wasn't just standard business. This was the machinery of control at its most ruthless. Was Whitney still making decisions for herself, or was she being managed from every angle, every contract, every party invite? Why did her mentor's party go on while her family wept upstairs? Why did no one seem surprised that Whitney was vulnerable, alone, and surrounded by enablers in the last hours of her life?
Leola Brown, Bobby Brown's sister, has said on several occasions that she was beat.
The more we dig, the more the official narrative feels threadbare. Even the details of the aftermath invite suspicion. The industry's elite gathered in their designer suits, dancing and drinking, while LA County's investigators worked quietly upstairs. And let's not forget how the media, hungry for a good story, was quickly flooded with tributes and teary sound bites, drowning out questions before they could even be asked. It's a playbook as old as the industry itself. Overwhelm the public with carefully managed grief, push the messy stuff into the background, and move on as quickly as possible. Was Bobby's banishment from the party the final insult? or the clearest sign that someone needed to control every single frame of that night's narrative. Meanwhile, the same old ghosts haunt the edges. The connection between Whitney's passing and her daughter Bobby Christina's eerily similar fate is the kind of coincidence that would get a screenwriter laughed out of the room if it weren't real. Both found unresponsive in bathtubs, both surrounded by whispers of toxic relationships, both ultimately failed by the very people meant to protect them. It's the kind of symmetry that leaves us asking if there's a curse at work, or if the same unseen hands shaped both tragedies. And then there's Diddy, the master survivor, still orbiting Clive Davis's world, never quite banished, always popping up when the time is right. As lawsuits and accusations mount, Diddy remains on Clive's pre-Grammy party guest list, no matter how many PR fires he's trying to put out. Coincidence? Or proof of a pact between two men with more shared secrets than anyone else in the room. The rumors of blackmail, of vaults full of compromising footage, of favors exchanged and silence bought, refuse to fade away. Artists who have tangled with these power players know the price of disobedience. Lost deals, sudden blacklisting, or worse, becoming the scapegoat for the fall of someone much bigger.
I want the world to know that Bobby Christina did not from the bathtub incident. That's not what Bobby Christina.
What Bobby Christina?
Bobby Christina was starved to.
Bobby's confession doesn't just dredge up his own pain, it cracks open a wider vault of secrets, one the industry has spent decades keeping shut. As his words echo across social media, they threaten to pull down more than just his own legacy. Suddenly, the world is watching Diddy and Clive Davis scramble behind closed doors, industry lawyers dialing each other at midnight, publicists weighing which truths are worth burying and which lies the world will actually swallow. The stakes have never been higher, because if Bobby Brown is finally ready to talk, who else might step forward? What happens if the stories of intimidation, secret contracts, and personal threats ever reach a courtroom or a real investigation? Maybe the biggest question isn't just what happened to Whitney in those final minutes, but how many others in the business have been caught up in the same web, forced into silence by fear, threats, or the iron grip of a contract they'll never escape. As we peel back the layers of what happened that day at the Beverly Hilton, the truth feels both closer and more dangerous than ever. Are we looking at a tragic accident, or the inevitable result of a system built to profit off the pain and struggles of its brightest stars? Now, as Bobby Brown finally breaks his silence, the walls protecting the music industry's darkest secrets are beginning to tremble. Are we on the verge of seeing the truth exposed for the first time, or will the powers that be find a way to bury the story one more time? What do you believe happened in those lost minutes? And is the industry itself ready for the fallout if all the secrets come out? Drop your wildest theories in the comments below and let us know, who do you think was really pulling the strings behind the scenes? Thanks for watching, and remember, in the world of fame and fortune, the real story is always the one they don't want you to hear. Stay sharp, stay curious, and we'll see you next time for more truth they don't want you to know.